The situation unfolding in Sagaing, Myanmar, it's incredibly harrowing. A 7.7 magnitude earthquake has devastated that rebel stronghold, leaving over 2,000 dead and thousands injured.
Yep, it's like the very picture of catastrophe. What really striking here is how the natural disaster compounds an already brutal conflict.
Exactly. Sagaing's not just any city. It's been a flashpoint in the conflict for years. With over 80% of buildings reportedly destroyed, you're looking at an already battered population now facing extreme isolation.
And to think these are not just ruins from the quake, but a city that's been scarred by military violence for a long time.
Right. In fact, this particular earthquake is the deadliest in over a century for Myanmar. And it's almost like the perfect storm. Natural disaster meets man-made obstruction.
When you say man-made obstruction, you mean the military is actually blocking aid to the area, right?
Correct. Absolutely. Despite the regime's supposed call for international help, essential supplies are stuck behind military checkpoints. Local volunteers have been clear. Every rescue, every bit of aid requires military approval.
So what we're really seeing is a double crisis. The quake compounded by a deliberate blockade. Man, that's just heartbreaking.
Yes, it is. And the numbers are staggering. Over 2,056 dead already, but experts fear the toll could even exceed 10,000 when everything is tallied up. That's both an overwhelming tragedy and a call to action.
Right. And it gets worse in terms of infrastructure, too. With nearly 80% of the buildings gone, we're talking about an entire city, 300,000 people stranded, and barely any shelter to speak of.
Precisely. People are forced to sleep on the streets with makeshift shelters, and the local hospital is so overwhelmed that bodies are being placed along sidewalks. It's a vivid, awful picture of disaster.
Wow, that's difficult to even imagine. And then there's the added pain of the ongoing conflict. Prior bombings, airstrikes, and systematic intimidation already preyed on the city's residents.
That's right. Sagaing has long been under the iron grip of a military regime that has targeted rebel factions viciously. This strategic location between the Irrawaddy and Chindwin rivers, it's always been key for control, and now it's just a powder keg.
It sounds like the military tactics aren't just about quelling rebellion anymore, but deliberately turning a natural disaster into a sort of controlled catastrophe.
Yeah, exactly. One volunteer, Thant Zin, mentioned they're working barehanded with no proper rescue equipment because they're literally blocked by military checkpoints. It's almost impossible to get help out there.
While the military, led by Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, even claimed to accept aid, it's clear that most international help is actually being funneled to junta-controlled cities like Mandalay and Naypyidaw.
Right, and that's infuriating to people actually in Sagaing who feel utterly forsaken. Volunteers and local voices like U Tin Shui standing outside a flattened monastery express a deep sense of helplessness.
I get it, but isn't it a bit simplistic to attribute all these failures solely to military obstruction? I'm thinking sometimes bureaucratic chaos can also play a role.
Well, it's true that bureaucratic red tape exists everywhere, but in this case, there's compelling evidence that the military's active blockade is deliberately hampering effective aid delivery.
That makes sense, given the context. And when you consider that even international groups like Malaysia's trauma response team have faced hurdles, only a handful of foreign agencies have been allowed in. It's a stark reminder of how politicized humanitarian crises can become.
Absolutely. And agencies like UNICEF and the World Food Programme are cautiously trying to navigate these obstacles to, help the people of Sagaing. But with 1 million displaced residents now in this conflict zone, the challenge is magnified exponentially.
It's crazy, really, how one disaster can so heavily intersect with ongoing political conflicts. It's like the natural disaster itself is being weaponized by the situation.
Exactly. It turns into a sort of man-made catastrophe layered on top of an already devastating natural event. Local voices like Win Ma, whose family members perished in the rubble, echo the profound sense of abandonment and despair.
True. And that stench of despair you mentioned, the image of bodies wrapped in white cloth on the sidewalks, is deeply disturbing. It signals an emergency that's beyond just physical destruction.
Absolutely. It's a total breakdown of basic life support, clean water, electricity, communication, all wiped out by both the quake and the siege tactics deployed by the junta.
Yeah. I mean, how do you even begin to rebuild under such conditions? It's like the rescue efforts are battling against every imaginable layer of obstruction.
Well, it's a Herculean task. Volunteers are working with minimal resources, sometimes just their bare hands. And while the international community does inch forward cautiously, the scale of the need far outstrips the help coming in.
It's a stark, tragic reminder of how political conflicts can sharply compound the destruction of natural disasters. The world really needs to step in to reassess their approach here.
Indeed. And it's not just about rebuilding structures, it's about restoring hope. After years of conflict, this disaster has pushed the people of Sagaing over the edge.
Right. It sounds like urgent international pressure is required. Something must balance humanitarian aid with political accountability.
Absolutely. Without unimpeded aid and a cessation of military blockades, the death toll and suffering will only continue to escalate. Volunteers and international agencies need full access to, reach every survivor.
That's the heart of the matter. Help has to get to the people, regardless of political alignments or military strategies.
Yep. And it's a deeply challenging scenario. While the military's rare plea for international help might sound promising, the ground reality tells a different story with countless abandoned and desperate residents.
Yeah, exactly. And even the imagery here is so poignant. Monasteries flattened, lives shattered. It's like the quake didn't just break the earth, but also broke the spirit of an already embattled community.
Exactly. The synergy of natural disaster and prolonged military aggression creates a crisis that's, almost unimaginable. And the international response will need to be as robust as it is empathetic.
That raises an important point. How do we ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered equity, especially in areas historically marginalized by conflict?
It's a key question. Right, it's about holding all parties accountable. The global community must insist on humanitarian corridors, safe access, and insist on ceasing the blockade of aid for the sake of human lives.
Absolutely. And even beyond that, it's about rebuilding trust in institutions, both local leadership and international organizations, to ensure that such preventable tragedies don't become the norm.
Indeed. The saga of Sagaing right now is not just about a tragic earthquake. It underscores how political decisions can transform a natural disaster into a prolonged humanitarian crisis.
So true. In the end, our focus should be on supporting those stranded, forgotten souls in Sagaing and pushing for a humanitarian response that puts human life above all else.